Hey guys, this is John, Chef John from Grab and Go Concessions. Guys, I am going to answer your question about you saying that you don't know where to start when it comes to opening up a food truck business. I tell you what, opening a food truck business can be an exciting and rewarding venture. Food trucks make money. I tell you, it's just hard work. But there are several key factors that you need to consider, several steps that, before diving in, for instance. I mean, you need a plan. Do you have a plan? Ask yourself, do you have a plan or you think you have a plan? Most of us don't have a plan, we just have a dream. Okay? Your plan should include, for instance, type of truck or trailer, where am I going to park this thing, market research, competitor analysis, financial projections, breakdowns, the bad. Think of the bad that's going to happen. The stove is going to break down. The refrigerator is going to go bad. Are you able to fix it yourself? Or you're going to wait on this technician that's like 2 weeks away that tells you he's coming in 30 minutes. So think of those things. But first, what you need to know that probably most people don't tell you is the serve safe part of the business. What is that? Serve safe, I believe, is servesafe.com. It is a website. They do food handling and they do the licensing for a person who, for instance, people at restaurants, they have to take a food handler's course, a class. You got to buy the book. You got to go to a local commissary, and that local commissary is going to have a proctor, and that person is going to monitor you taking the test. Well, what is the test about, you ask? Well, the test is about hygiene, anything I would say from your hair nets, your fingernails, cross contamination, cuts like bandages, types of jewelry, broken glass, staples, types of wraps, plastic, cross contamination, unwashed vegetables, anything from salmonella, typhi, and botulism, things that can make people sick, in other words. Believe it or not, I have a story about one of the biggest hotels in America. The guy, he was eating soup and found a bandage inside the soup. So you got to know how to handle yourself around the kitchen. Things like, pets, pests, droppings, and rodents and stuff like that. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, food trucks harbor roaches. Okay, guys. You remember the old saying, roach coach? So you got to be careful. So you got to be on top of things. Now, the Serve Safe, what it does, it teaches you not to do these crazy things. For instance, if you get sick, you might make somebody else sick. You know what I'm saying? So you got to go through that food handler's course. First things first, you do not just go out and buy a food truck and then say, well, I'm going to make money. That is the very first step you need to go through when you have this idea of yours that you are going to make $1 million in a food truck. Now, what is the book about? The book, it teaches you how to store, how to refrigerate, uh, how to stack certain types of foods. For instance, anything that can leak doesn't go on top. Anything that can leak goes on the bottom. Let me give you an example. If you got prep chicken, say you got prep chicken breast in a Ziploc bag and it's got fluids in it, you don't put it on top. You put it on the bottom because if it does leak, it's not going to leak on anything else. Understanding how salmonella spreads, understanding botulism, you'd be surprised. It's not just meat that has the characteristics of cross contamination, salmonella, typhi. Potatoes can make somebody sick. Things like shellfish. Understanding the dates. Like if you bought Coca Cola, you would look at the date. Coca Cola said, "Well, 3 years from now, this thing is going to expire." Don't you know? You need to discard of it. But if you bought shellfish from a company, that company has to have it dated before instead of after. For instance, it's like there's no expiration date on shellfish. You have to the date you bought it in is the date you actually write it down. You write down on, for instance. You need to know these things. how to properly sanitize your dishes. In a food truck, of course, you're going to have one, two, three, up to four sinks. What is the fourth sink about? You've seen the three. I'm sure you have. You've seen the wash, you've seen the rinse, and you've seen the sanitize, right? Well, the fourth sink is like an eye flush kind of thing. Something gets in your eye, and then you can't flush your eye in the regular sink. So there's another sink for that. Keeping a first aid kit on the truck, a first aid kit. Something with gauze, peroxide, alcohol, even needles in certain instances. I mean, you do get cut, you do get burned. You know what I mean? I remember one time I was serving at a concert at a local flea market. I was bleeding and didn't know I was bleeding. I had blood all over the cup that I was about to hand to the customer. And the guy says to me, "Man, you're bleeding. Oh my God, what's going on?" I was like, "Sir, I'm so sorry, but these things happen." So my suggestion first, well, not just my suggestion, by law, you have to have your Serve Safe certificate. Once you have your Serve Safe certificate, you are well, that is the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle that you have to go through before you begin a restaurant business. Well, any state, not just the state of Florida. I believe this Serve Safe thing is a federal thing, and then I think it's actually regulated under the FDA or USDA, one of those entities. So you first things first, before you get into the food truck business, you have to understand that you have to have your food handler's license. Now, having that master license, you can have people work under you and they don't have to have it. Make sense? Just say you got 4 employees in the food truck, right? They don't have to have that license. However, in the state of Florida, they have to have training. What is training? Training is pretty much the same thing that you've gone through getting the license, probably by half. For instance, um, you can do an online course again with the servesafe.com, and then they themselves can actually get a certificate as to being able to handle the food. You're the master, for instance. You're the main person with the big license, but anybody who works with you or under you as employees has to have a training certificate. Every person has to have it. Now, if you have one of those four that's a cashier that is not touching the food, that's not necessary. That's just another, that's another argument. Trust me, when the inspector walks in, he's going to ask you, who is this person? Well, he's a cashier. Oh, she's a cashier. And then you might get away with it, then you might not. Because you know what, man? During the shuffle, these people do know everybody serves food. So my advice to you in the state of Florida, I'm not speaking for Dakota, New York, or whatever. If you are here in the state of Florida, that person that is in that food truck with you, if they work with you, they have to have a training, a food handler's training certificate. Okay. And most of us don't get caught, but when you do get caught, believe me, it can be in the thousands. God forbid if you make somebody sick, you make one person sick, the next person sick, it goes from an epidemic to a pandemic, and it gets really crazy. Okay, so this is the first part of the video, guys, that I want you to know. And then before you get into the food truck business, you must obtain your food handler's license. There's no way around it. So in the second section of the video, I'm going to get into the other parts as far as licensing, parking, code enforcement, and everything else that you need to get started, inspections, type of truck, trailer, and so on, for you to understand. Once you get out here, if you do it right, you will make money. When I say make money, you make a lot of money in a food truck. Remember, you don't have the overhead restaurants have. That's why they don't like us. Okay, guys, we're gonna get into the second version of this video, which is actually the licensing part. Okay, once you've obtained, and like I spoke in the previous video, once you've obtained the serve safe certificate and everything, you're ready to serve food. Now, what you do, you're ready to actually, if you have the food truck and you're ready to register your business. Okay, well, you don't have to have the food truck, but now you're ready to register your business. What you're gonna get yourself an EIN number. The EIN number, which is a federal tax ID number, which identifies your business. Now, first, you build a corporation. You can give it a name, whichever name you choose to give it. Me personally, anything food truck works because when it comes to search engine optimization, food truck, it works. You know what I mean? So I don't know, food truck something, food truck mac and cheese, or some whichever name you think is right. But me, anything that is SEO friendly, I would use because you eventually are going to use that name on your website. Okay, like mine is grab and go concessions. The word concession is very search engine friendly. So once you get that going, you're gonna get your LLC. You're gonna register it with the floridasunbiz.org. You get that. You get the EIN number. You go from there. Once you have those, now you're ready to submit your paperwork to the DBPR, the Department of Business and Professional Regulations in the state of Florida. Okay? What they'll ask for is do you have a plan? A business plan is not necessarily a plan like a financial plan. It's like a plot, like a sketch and drawing of what's inside your truck. Like a little architectural little layout, you know what I mean? And you can send that to them and then they'll approve the license. Now you got to go through inspection. Inspection involves a commissary. Okay, what is a commissary? A commissary is a place that you go and you cook your food. They have refrigerators, they have storage capacity and stuff like that you can actually, when you cook your food, you can store it there overnight, and then when you're ready, you go back and then you can take the food and go out, be on the road and serve it. To me, a commissary is like a roach coach method. Okay, the small little roach coaches with the side doors and things that they go around construction sites. If you have a huge enough trailer, you can specify in the licensing, as far as when you apply for the license, that you are self-sufficient. Some inspectors catch that, some don't. You let them know that you are self-sufficient. You are an MFD, self-sufficient. And what is that? MFD means mobile food dispensing unit. And self-sufficient means that you do not need to pay a commissary to cook your food. You get it? You can cook your food inside your truck because if you don't sell all the food you cook, you can refrigerate it and then, reheat it, thaw it out, and then serve it the next morning. I mean, honestly, sometimes leftover food tastes better than the original. That's just, it's just a fact. So you need to mention that to the inspector or mention that to the Department of Regulations, the DBPR. Now, the DBPR is connected to myfloridalicense.com. Okay. And who gives you the license in Florida is the Department of Hotels and Restaurants. Okay. Once you have a license from the Department of Hotels and Restaurants, that means you've done your homework, you've cleaned up your mess, and you are ready to serve food. Now, one more thing, sales tax ID. Do not confuse sales tax ID with the federal tax ID. Okay? The sales tax ID is a process that you go to FloridaSalesTax.com. I'm sorry. I believe it's Florida Department of Revenue, FDOR.com. You go there and then you apply for a sales tax. It's just a regular application, and that application is going to ask you for your name of business, corporation, address, and so on, officer, president. It's pretty much the same format as the sunbiz.org application. Once you go through that, they're going to send you a sales tax ID number. Now, what do you do with that? What you do with it when you go buy food, for instance, you go at the local food, your restaurant supplier, you hand that to them. When you buy food, you don't pay the sales tax. So you're pretty much not paying sales tax on the food that you buy. I don't think the sales tax in Florida when it comes to raw food is a big deal. I mean, but you know, it's just a process you have to go through because in the state of Florida, if you sell food, if you sell cooked food, they actually want you to collect sales tax. Okay, so once you do that, now you are ready to operate and you are ready to collect sales tax. When you collect the sales tax, you send the sales tax back to them. You can actually do it online, and then just don't be late with it. If you're not using the sales tax, you can have them deactivated, and then so that way you don't owe. If you do owe, if you turn your return in on say late, a day late or so, they'll charge you $50 as if you know they've invested in you like some kind of livestock. You know what I'm saying? It's their money, but they will charge you. Now, sales tax you don't pay. People don't pay sales tax on natural juice, natural this and natural anything natural like salad, fruits and stuff like that. There is no sales tax. So if you make lemonade, for instance, you don't charge sales tax. You know what I mean? But if you sell the lemonade in a meal, you can't divide it. You just got to do the whole thing. So either way, the government wins, right? Now, let's get into something else that is very important that a lot of us don't think about before, you know, we get into this business, right? It is parking. Where are you going to park this food truck? You didn't think about that. Okay. Where you park the food truck, do you have electricity? You didn't think about that part. Well, there it is, guys. Most food trucks are 220 volts and 30 amps. Mine is 220 and then it's 50 amps because I got big everything because I made it myself. So the average food truck is 30 amps. You do run it on a generator on a daily basis. You know, thank God these days we got these inverter style generators that are not as loud as the old ones used to be. But can you leave the generator running if you park the truck at somewhere remote from your home? No, you're gonna burn, you're gonna run yourself out of business with just fuel alone. So do you have a plan when you're not using the truck, where you're gonna park the truck? You can't put it in your backyard. You can't put it in your side yard because code enforcement won't allow you. If you live in Florida, believe me, you're gonna have some neighbor that just feels he can call code enforcement, and then you shouldn't have that truck in your yard. You know, most time they just do it just to be nasty. But no, you cannot park the truck in your backyard unless there's exceptions. Unless you live in a C2 zoning or in a commercial agricultural type of zoning. That's fine. But most of us regular people don't have that facility where we can park the food truck in our backyard. Now, just say you find a warehouse who's willing to pay every month. Are they going to provide electricity for you to plug the food truck in? Probably not. And if they do, you're going to have to pay extra. You got to think of these things before you get into the food truck thing here. Okay? So, storage, not just storage and electricity. You got to think about those. So, breakdowns. Let's think of breakdowns. Things break down. Gas leaks happen. Refrigerators go bad. I mean, you can't go out and purchase a new refrigerator because your commercial refrigerator or freezer, the fan went bad. Now it's not cooling down properly, and then what? You're gonna just get rid of it and then buy another one? You gotta have the knowledge and the understanding how the stuff works. I'm not saying for you to be some HVAC EPA certified mechanic kind of guy. Thank God I am, and I'm able to understand these things, and they break down, and I fix them. Um, if you have a friend that is mechanically inclined, it helps because you can go to a concert and catch a and get a flat tire, and then there goes your day, man. Can you change a flat tire in a 20-foot, 15,000 pound trailer? I'll have videos on that. Eventually, I'll have videos on that. I'll have videos on, how to fix and repair refrigerators, anything that breaks down inside the truck, how to modify your truck. If you need to add something, I'll be putting videos on how to actually, the proper way to clean your deep fryer and stuff like that. So those are the things that we don't think about when you know, we say, hey man, I got $100,000. I want to invest in a food truck. Okay. You got a bad juicer. A juicer goes bad. Like for instance, those Chinese juicers. You buy these Chinese juicers from Amazon. They last you what, 6 months, if that, 3 months, and then the problem is you can't get parts for them. Even if I'm a technician, for instance. I repair my own equipment, and if you get into this Vevor or this Vever stuff, that stuff is from China. Even if you can fix it, you can't buy parts for those things. You got to think about that stuff. The average bun, there's Bun One and Bun Two. Bun is a company that makes equipment for restaurants and things like that. I have Bun slush machines. Now that slush machine, it makes slushies as well as you can refrigerate juices and stuff in it. You know what I'm saying? You got to know these things. You just can't go out and you buy, people. I noticed that a lot of people want to buy equipment for less. Like, for instance, well, I found it cheaper in Miami, for instance. Oh, I got a guy in Wisconsin who sells it cheaper. When you buy cheap equipment, you know what happens? You're going to keep on buying cheap equipment. When you buy good stuff, for instance, I like quality stuff. Inside my truck, it's Alto Sham and it's Bun, it's True, it's Panasonic, it's New Wave, and then it's American Standard. Everything that I have is a brand name. I don't go out and buy this cheap Chinese stuff, and then next thing you know, I have to keep replacing it. I have equipment from the original day that I purchased the food truck, which is probably 6 years ago, that is still functioning. Okay, so these are the things you have to know. You just can't think you can do it because, let's say, for instance, you have a partner, and then you guys, something happens for a reason, and then next thing you know, you're not making money. Is that person going to be able to understand that they've invested half the money in the business? Is that person going to understand that we're not making money because of whatever reason? You know what I'm saying? You got to think of these things. I've seen it where two partners invest in a food truck, and next thing you know, they fall apart. They hate each other. It's because of you this, and it's because of you that, and then on and on and on. These are the things that you got to think about. Me personally, honestly, I took $120,000 and invested it in the food truck business because I had the confidence in myself. The 120,000, it bought a truck and it bought the trailer. I didn't involve my wife in it because I didn't. If I fail, I would be the one to fail by myself. That's the thing with me. I'm a different animal. You know what I mean? If I lost the trailer, I lost the business. If I lost anything, thank God it didn't happen. But it took me 2 years to understand the business, guys. Guys, you gotta be psychologically really tuned to get into this business. And if you do have a partner, you guys have to be on the same page. Okay? Um, I live in Florida, for instance. Food trucks get really hot. You just say you're in the summertime. The average temperature inside of the food truck is near 300, sometimes 400 degrees, where you have to find ways to dissipate that heat. You have to find ways to cool the truck down. The air conditioners sometimes don't feel like they're working. So you got to think about those things before you get into it. If you're in New York somewhere in Manhattan serving food, you don't have the proper heating. That can be an issue. You know what I mean? There's a lot to think about. So in the next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the electrical part of a food truck. The next video that I make, I am going to specifically explain to you guys before you buy a food truck, and you need to know exactly what type of equipment that you are going to use. I know most of it is gas, which it does not have to be. You don't have to have gas to have a food truck, guys. With today's induction cooking, you have new wave ovens and different types of induction cooking ovens that you can use to cook your food. You don't have to have gas. I find that gas is very toxic. 4-burner, 6-burner stove inside of a food truck. An oven, gas oven inside of a food truck, to me is dangerous, and with gas leaks and everything else. But I want to get into the electrical part of a food truck as far as the plug-ins, the amperage, 50 amps, 30 amps, types of air conditioning, HVAC all around, types of CFMs needed, the load calculation when it comes to air conditioning. I see a lot of food trucks with mini splits. Mini splits don't work in food trucks, guys. I am sorry. Anything inside of a food truck has to have forced draft. It's got to have a fan to be able to blow that cold air across the area that you are working in, as well as you got to have the right exhaust fan, the right size. So I'm going to get into that. And just you guys, the next video that I make, I'm really going to take it serious, because I'm going to show you the wiring, types of generators you should use. And there are different types of generators. If you have a loud generator, guys, you can't do certain events because it's just too loud. The decibels, dBs, meaning the type of noise from a person standing next to the generator. Are they able to talk to someone else? Distance. And paneling, again, amperage, wattage, wire size, and everything else. Okay, guys? So stay tuned for the next video. I am actually getting it together to educate you guys and see to it that you don't make mistakes, the most mistakes that people make, because you go out and buy a food truck, these people, they will not explain to you how electricity